So we do have students, right? And our students come from By the Hood University. And the thing about By the Hood University is you get people from all walks of life. We have people from, who have experience investing, who kind of take the options course, people who are starting from scratch and know nothing at all. But we get a lot of questions, right? Um, One of the things that keeps coming up, and it's not just from our students, but it's from people online as well. So I'm not going to, put anyone's name out there because this is literally, and I'm not even exaggerating, probably about 50 people. And this is why this topic has to be addressed, is looking at the price. And by the way, before I even get into this is not investment advice, right? This is for entertainment purposes only. This is not investment advice. Please see your financial advisor. We are not financial advisors. We're just giving our perspective from things that we actually do. But here's the question, right? People come to me every day and they say, listen, I have X amount of dollars. I'm starting with a small account. And they look at these companies that are cheap companies, and they want to buy those companies because they could buy more of the shares. So I'll give you a quick example. I had a gentleman, right, who took our course. He did all of his analysis in terms of fundamental analysis, technical analysis. He says, I don't like Tesla's, balance sheet. I don't like the fact that they're not making any money. But based upon everything else I've read, I think Tesla is the future. I think it's a great company to invest in long term. Now, this is his analysis, right? I says, okay, so what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to buy 100 shares of Ford. I said, whoa, you just told me all the great stuff about Tesla. Well,
I'm sorry.
he said, but Ford is cheaper. I can afford to buy 100 shares of Ford, but I can only buy a partial share of Tesla. I said, but what about Ford? Well, I don't even think
You,
they're that great, but I can buy more of them, right?
you just
And
did the analysis.
he did the analysis, right? So this is the crazy part. And again, I'm not gonna put your name out. He did the analysis, and he's not the only one. I've had multiple students come up to me and they're looking at the price of a company in order to make their investment, right? Thing about that is, I told him, if your analysis says this other company is a way better company long term, why not just buy a partial share of that? Well, because I can have more of these. So I told him, I said, well, if you could buy a Bentley, but you can buy, 5 Ford Escorts, you're gonna buy the Bentley, you're gonna buy the Escorts. He said, I'm gonna buy the Bentley. I said, it's the same thing, right? You know this company is going to be here long term. This is your analysis. Um, you know that it's a better company, but yet and still you're looking at price. You can't invest just based on price. That's not investing. That's not investing, right? So my whole thing is buy the Bentley, right? I see the same thing with Amazon. Amazon is so expensive right now that people say, as opposed to buying a partial share of Amazon, they're going to buy another business, which they don't even believe is a great business. In 2020, you have the ability to literally buy fractional shares. I don't care whether you go to Stockpile, you go to Cash App, you go to wherever Robinhood at this point, you go to M1. We can name 5 or 10 brokerages where you could buy partial shares. I would rather have a partial share of a great company than 100 shares of a trash company. I'm not calling anything trash, but that's my perspective. Has anyone ever came to you with this, Core?
Yeah, man, I get this. I get the same thing, right? So you get people who do an analysis, and they come up with an analysis, and then what they do is they do the analysis, and then they come up with a similarly a company in the same field that is cheaper. I'm like, well, the reason they're cheaper is because they're not as good of a company as the other company. The other company has had growth, and that's why the other company costs more. So you want the company that's going to grow. So why in the hell are you talking to me? Why are you trying to buy this why are you trying to buy this Ford Pinto when you got a Bentley sitting right in front of you? Especially with fractional is if your brokerage does fractional shares, there's no reason in the world you should be buying trash companies. There's none.
Yeah,
Especially if you're
yeah.
doing long-term investing. Now you can look at those trash companies to try to make some money off of calls and puts on some swing trades or some of those other things, but you can't be looking at those companies for no long-term investing. Like you got to stop with that. That's absolute madness.
Yeah, but a
You
lot of
cannot.
people do that, right? So the whole wave right now, right? The whole wave right now is taking a flyer on airline companies. I even saw people in a group I was in yesterday talking about buying Hertz, right? They're talking about buying Hertz as the information about it going bankrupt comes out. And the only thing they're talking about is, well, look how many I can get. I mean, I see the same thing within the crypto space, right? So shout out to Bitcoin Zay, who's a specialist in that space who was on our podcast. And then talking to him where he says that people look at these what they call shit coins, these altcoins, And because they can buy so many more of them, they rather buy that as opposed to buying what they know is the better coin, right? So you name it, they'll buy
Yeah.
like, whatever coin, and they'll do that
Man,
as opposed, you know what I mean?
listen, people will buy, they'd rather buy 7 pair XJ900s than 1 pair of good running shoes. They'd rather wear out, some Bobos than wear, people cheap.
But you know what?
Like,
When it comes to sneaks, nobody's gonna do that, right?
no,
You're not
no,
gonna you're
dog.
not gonna buy you're not gonna buy 10 pair of Starberries if you can get a pair of Jordans, right? Although I think the Starberry move was amazing and I supported it just because I like what he did, but that's a
Listen,
whole other
man.
thing. But the average
I
person, the average cat in the street ain't gonna buy a pair of Starberries, right? They're gonna go buy the Jordans. And they can get probably 10 pair of Starberries, right?
If you got $250, you gonna buy the Jordans.
Yeah, real quick, we got a comment and shout out to Court
I can't.
who's
I don't got
listening
my
in.
glasses on.
I got you, man. It's Court. He said, I suggest that people ignore share price when evaluating companies for long-term investing. If that company has a history of paying dividends and stock splits, because eventually you'll break even. So shout out to Court for commenting and listening in. And he's right. Ignore share price. When you evaluate a company and you think it's a good company, then you make your move from there. Like, don't even think about the share price at this point, because one of the things that's lost in investing a lot of times is they look at these things as just numbers, right? Just numbers. But this is equity ownership in a company. It's equity ownership in a company. So, our opinion is buy the Bentley, man. Like, that's just the analogy we're going to use. Like, buy the Bentley, buy the pair of Jordans. Don't buy the 5 pair of Starberries, because that's not what you would do if you were buying sneaks. So don't do it when you're buying companies and you're investing your money.